The most disturbing mysteries aren't the ones investigators solve. They're the ones that refuse to make sense. Because sometimes, the deeper the FBI looks into a case, the stranger the truth becomes. In 2009, agents opened a file that would soon become one of the most baffling investigations they had ever encountered. A case involving a missing man, a hidden collection of unsolved disappearances, and a secret that suggested someone had been watching these crimes unfold for years. But the most chilling part? The man who might have known the truth vanished before he could reveal it. This is the story of the unsolved case that still baffles the FBI. October 14, 2009. The quiet suburban neighborhood of Maple Ridge Drive in Ashford, Pennsylvania looked exactly like it always did. Neatly trimmed lawns, identical mailboxes, and a silence that usually meant nothing unusual ever happened there. But that morning, neighbors noticed something strange. Elliot Granger hadn't been seen for days. For a man known for strict routines, morning coffee at exactly 6:30, evening walks at 7:15, his sudden absence felt unsettling. Eventually, police were called to perform a welfare check. When officers arrived at Granger's house, everything appeared normal. The door was unlocked. The living room was spotless. A coffee cup sat on the kitchen counter, dried at the bottom. It looked like someone had simply walked away. But Elliot Granger was nowhere inside the house. No packed bags. No note. No signs of struggle. Just silence. At first, investigators believed they were dealing with a simple missing persons case. But then they opened the door to Granger's home office. And suddenly, the investigation took a very dark turn. The small office looked nothing like the rest of the house. Every wall was covered with maps, photographs, newspaper clippings, dozens of red strings connecting locations across several states. At first glance, it looked like the obsessive work of someone chasing conspiracy theories. But when investigators examined the photos more closely, they realized something disturbing. Every photograph showed the same thing. Missing women. Women who had vanished over the past decade. Each one unsolved. Each one connected to different states and different timelines. Yet somehow, Elliot Granger had mapped them all. Pinned beneath the photos were detailed notes. Driving routes. Gas station stops. Weather conditions on the nights the women disappeared. It wasn't random. It was structured. Calculated. Almost like someone had been studying these crimes for years. Within hours, the FBI was contacted. Because suddenly, Elliot Granger wasn't just a missing person. He was a potential suspect in multiple unsolved cases. When agents began searching Granger's computer, the situation became even more unsettling. His hard drive contained dozens of encrypted folders. Inside them were surveillance photographs. Images of women entering parking garages, walking through grocery store lots, leaving their workplaces late at night. Some of the faces in those photos matched the women on the missing persons board. But there was one strange detail. Investigators found no evidence that Granger had ever approached any of them. No phone calls. No GPS overlap. No witness sightings. It was as if he had been watching from a distance, without ever intervening. Then agents found something that raised even more questions. A leather notebook hidden in the bottom drawer of his desk. Inside were handwritten journal entries dating back nearly 10 years. At first, the pages read like research notes. But as agents continued reading, the tone changed. One entry read, "I know who's doing this." Another, "They don't see the pattern yet." And one line, written in darker ink, was underlined 3 times. "The Bureau is watching the wrong man." Suddenly, investigators began to consider another possibility. What if Elliot Granger wasn't the killer, but someone trying to track one? 3 days into the investigation, a new clue appeared. A transaction from Elliot Granger's bank account. $200 withdrawn from an ATM in St. Louis, Missouri. more than 700 miles from his home. When agents pulled the surveillance footage, they expected to see Granger. But the person using the ATM wasn't him. The figure wore a dark hoodie. Their face was partially hidden. But one thing was clear. Whoever it was, knew Granger's PIN number. That discovery triggered a multi-state investigation. But every lead seemed to vanish just as quickly as it appeared. And then agents finally cracked one of Granger's encrypted files. What they found inside would change the direction of the entire case. The file contained a single video, recorded from what appeared to be a dashboard camera. The footage showed a quiet highway at night. For nearly 2 minutes, nothing happened. Then headlights appeared in the distance. A car pulled onto the roadside. A woman stepped out of the vehicle. She looked confused, checking her phone. Then suddenly, a man emerged from the darkness. Within seconds, he forced her into the passenger seat and drove away. The abduction lasted less than 15 seconds. Investigators quickly confirmed the timestamp. It matched one of the unsolved disappearances pinned on Granger's wall. But the most disturbing part wasn't the kidnapping. It was the angle of the footage. The camera had been recording from another parked vehicle nearby. Someone had witnessed the entire crime and chose not to intervene. As agents froze the final frame of the video, they noticed something chilling. Reflected faintly in the windshield was the face of the person inside the recording vehicle. Watching. Silent. Calm. But when investigators enhanced the image, the man staring back at them was not Elliot Granger. It was someone else. Someone whose name had appeared in multiple investigations before. A man always cleared due to lack of evidence. A man who had somehow remained invisible for nearly 20 years. Suddenly, Elliot Granger's notes made terrifying sense. He had been tracking a killer, documenting patterns, collecting evidence, trying to prove something investigators had missed. But before he could reveal the truth, he disappeared. And the man reflected in that windshield? He vanished the very same week. To this day, neither man has ever been found. No arrests. No bodies. Just questions. But inside an FBI archive, the case file still carries a chilling label. Active, subjects missing. Because investigators believe Elliot Granger got too close to the truth. And if that theory is correct, then the killer he was trying to expose may still be out there. Watching. Waiting. And if what Granger discovered was real, then the next disappearance may already be part of the pattern. When Elliot Granger vanished in 2009, investigators believed they had discovered the secret life of a potential serial killer. But the deeper the FBI dug into his files, the more disturbing the truth became. Granger hadn't been committing the crimes. He had been tracking them, documenting patterns no one else had seen, trying to expose a predator who had somehow remained invisible for nearly 2 decades. And just when investigators began to understand what he might have discovered, Elliot Granger disappeared, along with the mysterious man captured in the reflection of a dashboard camera. But the case didn't end there. Because weeks later, investigators found something hidden inside Granger's home. Something he may have left behind intentionally. A message. And what that message revealed would send the FBI down a far darker path. 2 weeks after Elliot Granger's disappearance, forensic teams were still combing through his house. Most investigators believed the home had already given up all its secrets. Until a technician noticed something unusual. One of the maps pinned to the office wall looked slightly thicker than the others. When agents removed it, they discovered a folded sheet of paper taped behind the board. The paper contained only numbers. Dozens of them. At first, the sequence looked meaningless. But one analyst noticed something strange. The numbers matched latitude and longitude coordinates. Coordinates spread across 4 different states. When agents began plotting them on a map, a disturbing pattern emerged. Every location corresponded to a disappearance tied to Granger's research. But one coordinate stood out, because it wasn't linked to any known missing person case. It pointed to a remote forest area outside Springfield, Missouri. An isolated patch of land miles away from the nearest road. Investigators immediately organized a search. And what they found there would only deepen the mystery. 3 days later, FBI agents and local authorities arrived at the coordinates. The forest was dense and silent. The kind of place where no one would hear anything happening. Search teams began scanning the area with metal detectors and ground-penetrating radar. For hours, nothing appeared. Until one of the scanners detected a disturbance beneath the soil. Agents began digging. And after nearly an hour, they uncovered something chilling. A buried metal storage container. Inside the container were several objects wrapped carefully in plastic. Clothing. A broken cell phone. A silver necklace with a small pendant. The items were immediately recognized. They belonged to one of the missing women from Granger's investigation board. A woman named Natalie Henson who had disappeared in 2006. But the most disturbing discovery wasn't the items themselves. It was the condition of the container. It had been buried recently. Forensic analysis suggested it had been placed there only months earlier. 3 years after Natalie Henson vanished. Which raised a terrifying question. Had someone moved the evidence? Or had the killer returned to the crime scene? As investigators studied Granger's coordinates further, they realized something even more unsettling. The locations formed a geometric pattern across the Midwest. A precise triangular structure connecting several disappearance sites. It wasn't random. It was mathematical. The type of pattern someone with engineering or analytical training might design. Agents returned to Granger's notebook searching for answers. And buried between dozens of research notes, they found another chilling entry. He revisits the past. Below it, another line. Every 6 years. Same locations. Same routes. That note triggered a deeper look at the timeline of the disappearances. And when analysts compared the dates, the pattern became impossible to ignore. Every 6 years, activity increased. Clusters of disappearances. Then silence. Then another cycle. And if Granger's theory was correct, the next cycle was approaching. Very soon. Just when agents believed the case couldn't get stranger, a new discovery surfaced inside Granger's files. Hidden inside a folder labeled only with the number 17 was a photograph investigators had not previously noticed. The image showed a gas station parking lot at night. Several vehicles were visible beneath dim lights. At first glance, nothing appeared unusual. Until agents zoomed in on the far edge of the image. There, partially hidden beside a dark SUV, stood a man. Tall. Watching. The photograph had been taken from across the street, likely by Elliot Granger himself. But the chilling part wasn't the man's presence. It was the timestamp. The photo had been taken 2 days before Granger disappeared. Which meant Elliot Granger may have finally located the man he had been tracking for years. And if that was true, then Granger might have confronted him. Investigators ran facial recognition analysis on the figure in the photo. But the image quality was too poor for confirmation. Still, several agents believed the silhouette resembled the same man seen in the reflection of the dashboard camera. The man who had vanished the same week as Elliot Granger. But then one final discovery changed the investigation yet again. When analysts examined the photo metadata more closely, they noticed something shocking. The image had been taken at 9:42 p.m. But Granger's phone records placed him somewhere else entirely at that exact time. Nearly 50 miles away. Which meant only one thing. Elliot Granger had not taken the photograph. Someone else had. And that meant someone else had access to his files. Someone who knew about the investigation. Someone who may have been watching Elliot Granger. Just as closely as Granger had been watching the killer. Today, the disappearance of Elliot Granger remains unsolved. The mysterious man in the video reflection has never been identified, and the pattern Granger believed he uncovered has never been officially confirmed. But FBI analysts still quietly monitor the case, because according to Granger's notes, the next cycle of disappearances should have begun years ago. And yet, no new cases matching the pattern have appeared, which raises one terrifying possibility. The killer Elliot Granger was tracking didn't stop. He simply changed the pattern. And hidden deep within Elliot Granger's encrypted files, investigators recently discovered something they had missed for more than a decade. A final folder, locked behind a code no one has been able to crack. But the label on that folder sends chills through every investigator who sees it, because it contains only 2 words: "If I disappear." And whatever Elliot Granger left inside that file may finally reveal what really happened to him, or something far worse. If you enjoyed this story and want more chilling true crime mysteries like this one, make sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next investigation. Because some mysteries aren't over yet, and the next one might be even darker.